Welcome back to the Check Swing Podcast with myself and my man Sam over there. Right there. Right there. We are coaches talking baseball and baseball talking coaches. Yes, we are. And he has a Captain America sippy cup.
Hey, sippy cup. What am I for?
But welcome back to the Check Swing Podcast, y'all. Appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. And as you know, well, let me not even do that. First of all, like what I like to do every time I start a show, I like to ask the people that are on with me, how you been? So, Miguel,
Sure.
how you been, man?
Been well, man. It was good to see you this past weekend.
Absolutely.
Had
That's
a trip,
always good to see
made
you.
a quick trip to my hometown, North Philly. Well, that's West Philly. Is that West Philly? That's like,
Where I am?
yeah,
Yeah, it's Westville.
yeah, yeah. Um, so it was good to be back in town for a little bit. I was ready to leave.
Wow. You
You know what it is because it's
like
like
Maryland that much now, huh?
I, it was time. It's time.
No, I get it. I get it. It's like it's good it's nice to place to visit, but you like where you live now.
Yeah, I'm
It's
digging
still
it.
it's still brand new, it's still exciting, it's still nice. And when you come back, you get all them old vibes. I know what you mean.
You know,
I know what you mean. All the old vibes. But it is what it is. Appreciate you for stopping by and appreciate the gift. I've been, I'm showing it off, walking around like Joe Clark with the bat up under my arm. They used to call me Joe. They used to call me Crazy Joe. Now they call me Batman. So
yeah.
been walking around with that, and my family
What,
wants to know why am I walking around with a baseball bat under my arm. Well, that's why. That's why.
what was it? What was it that he was yelling when the fire department came? Cold tan, change lights.
Cold red. Take the chains off the doors. Take the chains off the doors. Cold red. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. One of my
Yeah, it's
all-time favorites. There,
a
Lean
time
on Me,
classic.
starring Morgan Freeman. Um, but if you've been with us for the past few weeks here on the Check Swing Podcast, then you already know that what we have been doing over the last few weeks is we've been putting together our Mount Rushmore of baseball. So we're doing it a different way. Most Mount Rushmore in sports, they say, give me your top four, right? But we're doing it a little differently right now. We're doing it in this fashion. We are taking one outfielder, one infielder, one catcher, and one pitcher. So that means one right center, right field, left field, center field. We're taking one. First base, second base, third base, shortstop. We're taking one. Not one of each. One from that category. Catchers, we're taking one. Pitchers, we're taking one. So all of the baseball diamond will be represented in our Mount Rushmore. All right. So it won't be like Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and Cy Young. Okay. I did that correct. I had to think about it, make sure I still didn't put it in the order. But that's how we're doing it. So you can answer our surveys. We send out surveys. We put them on the social media and all like that. You can check those out, and we take your suggestions as well. I mean, so far, Miguel and I have decided Barry Bonds is the outfielder that will be represented on the Mount Rushmore, and it seems like from the votes we've received, you guys feel the same way. Last week we talked about the first baseman, the second baseman. We put that survey out there, so I'm interested in seeing what those results look like, and you know, uh, can't wait to see that. No, oops, there you go. No,
Right.
something there's Barry Bonds representing the outfielders on the. That is a funny picture.
Hmm.
So Barry Bonds, as you can see right there, um, wins by an overwhelming margin. Coming up right behind him would be Willie Mays, and right behind him would be who was that? Hank Aaron. Everybody else just has a tiny piece of the pie. Some of those are write-ins, though, correct?
Correct, and I appreciate the person that wrote in Pedro Serrano.
Major League, right?
Yeah.
I thought, and I saw that, I was like, was there really a ball player named Pedro Serrano? Which there
Are,
might have been, but
are you saying Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
that's a classic character. That Pedro Serrano character. He's a classic character.
Did you know that wasn't the only baseball movie he played in?
He played in.
Come on, with Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck. What movie was what?
Mr. Baseball.
Oh,
He was
right.
he was his teammate in Japan, and
Yes,
he had the same swing, no accent, and a full head of hair.
You know what? You know what's funny though? A lot of people don't realize that that's the same guy from the Allstate commercial.
Mm-hmm. Every time I look back, I'm like, Allstate hits curveball.
So there go your results of the outfield. That's how Barry Bonds ended up on the outfield portion of our Mount Rushmore. So there you go with that. And like I said, today we'll be talking a little bit about third baseman and shortstop because last week we spoke about first and second baseman, and now we got to go to third baseman, shortstop. So with that being said, Miguel, who were you able to put together for what do you want to start with? Third baseman?
Yes.
Okay.
So just to kind of,
it's definitely the glamour position.
Right. So just to kind of recap real quick, because I'm going to lead into the other survey you were talking about. So last week, like you said, we talked about the first baseman. So we decided that Lou Gehrig, who played 2,130 consecutive games, would represent our first baseman. And second baseman was a challenging choice because you have two players that were great for their own distinct reasons. You had Jackie Robinson, who was great, although he had a shorter career because he was in the Negro Leagues, and his rookie year wasn't until he was 28. And then you have Joe Morgan, who has arguably the best stats all around. So when we put it to the survey, I was kind of leaning towards, what you had said last week, because Jackie Robinson, there was just so much he did for baseball. I mean, his numbers retired for the entire sport and his significance. However, the people have voted that they actually want Albert Pujols to represent the first baseman. And in almost a landslide, they want Joe Morgan.
So I have a what's called an admission.
An admission?
I have all that talk I said about Jackie Robinson last week, I ended up voting for Joe Morgan.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I just kind of took the stats and was like, Joe Morgan had better statistics.
Right, and I think the only issue is, again, if you take the being the first to break the barrier away and you line them up side by side. No offense to Jackie Robinson, no offense to his historical significance, but he would just would have been a above average second baseman.
Right.
If you put them side by side, But again. Right. When you're thinking Mount Rushmore and the significance, I think that's where, how do you not put them on there?
Right. Right. How do you not put Jackie Robinson? But the people have spoken so far. People have spoken. They're saying they want Joe Morgan on there, which is surprising to me, quite honestly, because I feel like, I don't know. Like, for me, when I think of second baseman, the first person, for whatever reason, that I think of is not Joe Morgan.
Who's that?
For whatever reason, I don't really. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he was before my time, so he's not, ever present on my mind as far as second baseman are concerned. Jackie Robinson, Rod Carew, more so than Joe Morgan. For whatever, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, Rod Carew was before my time too. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know why I don't think of Joe Morgan first, but I
I think
voted for him. So,
I think I thought more of Joe Morgan because of how often the Phillies played him in the past, and
mm.
he was, on ESPN, Sunday Night Baseball for so many years.
And that's how that's what I remember. That's what I know.
Right.
I remember the ESP like that's how I think like how some people only know oh man, brain fart here. The guy who was on with Harry Callis in the
Ri-
80s and 90s.
Richie Ashburn.
Richie Ashburn. A lot of there's a whole generation that only knows Richie Ashburn as the guy that was doing color with Harry Callis. They don't know him as a baseball player. They know him as a commentator.
You weren't a big fan of Gary Matthews.
Sarge? Oh, Gary Matthews. Gary Matthews. I like Gary Matthews.
If you don't swing at the ball and it's out of the strike zone, it's a ball.
But I mean, what I'm saying is, there's like, for instance, when I think of like the NBA announcers that I grew up with, like, what's my man's name?
Albert,
Grateful. No, not him, but the guy that actually played ball. Grateful Dead. Luke Walton, not Luke Walton. Bill Walton.
Bill Walton.
I don't think of Bill Walton when I don't think of him as, well, now I do because I'm a little older and I know more. But when I was younger, Bill Walton was a guy on TV talking basketball. He wasn't the great Bill Walton.
Right.
But anyway,
He had a speech impediment too.
didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a real bad. It was like I think it was a stutter and a lisp or something to that effect. But he had to work on
Hmm.
his speech for a long time.
Hmm. Interesting stuff there. Interesting stuff.
All right, so we got our third baseman for this week. So in order, we're starting. I got four for you. Here's number
Okay.
four. Here's number four, Mr. Chipper Jones. So his best
Okay.
season was in 1999, which he batted 319, 45 home runs, 110 RBIs, 126 walks. And then his career line there, up just under 500 home runs. His offensive WAR is pretty doggone good. Um, and I kind of hated to put him on this as a suggestion because he was a Philly killer too.
He was
Uh,
a Philly killer.
but I love chanting Larry when he would come to the vet or Citizens. So there is Mr. Chipper Jones. He has a slight advantage because, of course, he was a switch hitter. So
Now, but Chipper just kind of weird, kind of funny because I feel like Chipper Jones got old out of nowhere. Like when he was old, he didn't
yeah,
seem old,
yeah,
and all of a sudden it was like he's retiring because he's old.
yeah. He fell from grace real quick, real quick. Um, he always reminded me of a switch hitting Scott Rowland. But the issue with Scott Rowland was that once he left, I mean, I don't want to say he was injury prone, but yeah, he was injury prone. I don't think I think he only played like maybe 5 or 6 full seasons in his career, but he was going to be touted as the greatest third baseman of our day until he got traded and then the injury started.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, Scott rock and rolling.
yeah, man. All right. So number 3 I have for you, Mr. George Brett.
Ooh,
So George Brett came the closest to hitting 400 since Ted Williams. So in 1980, which was the year the Phillies won the World Series, he was the on the Kansas City Royals, the team that we defeated to win the first World Series. So his best season in 1980, he hit 390 with 24 home runs, 118 RBIs, only had 58 walks because they had a couple other players like Willie Mays Aikens and Amos Otis, classic baseball names, hitting in front and behind him. So they drew all those walks. But he hit 300 home runs over his career, 1,500 or close to 1,600 RBIs. was a great singles and doubles hitter, 3,100 hits, um, great offensive WAR, not bad defensive WAR as well. So he would be number 3 on the third base list. So now we go to number 2. Now, of course, there's an argument amongst crazy people out there over who number 2 and number 1 are. And it just so happens that number 1 and number 2 happen to be from the 2 areas that you and I are sitting at as we speak. This is not from a point of bias. It's just look at the numbers and then look at the impact. All right. Again, we're looking at all 5 tools as close as possible to 5 tools. And we know third basemen don't usually run or run well. So for number 2, I have Mr. Brooks Robinson from the Baltimore Orioles. His best season, 317 with 28 home runs, 118 RBIs, only 51 walks. But he also had a team loaded with, I believe, Boog Powell and Frank Robinson hitting in front and behind. Not a great hitter necessarily, but he was known specifically for his defense. Arguably slightly the greatest defensive third baseman that ever lived. Just under 300 home runs, just under 3,000 hits, didn't walk a lot, but his offensive and defensive WAR, I believe, is the highest for any player, individual player.
Okay.
So number 1.
This is tough, man.
Number 1 is the one and only Michael Jack Schmidt. So 1980, of course, the World Series year, he batted 286 with 48 home runs, 121 RBIs, 89 walks, good offensive WAR, 548 home runs, just under 1,600 RBIs, a lot of walks, great offensive WAR, and pretty good defensive WAR as well. So those are your third basemen, Mr. Larry Jones, George Brett, Brooks Robinson, and Mike Schmidt. Who you got?
I'm already going to say I'm biased, but I got to go with Mike Schmidt. He was the first. He was probably the second sports superstar I knew of.
Okay.
Probably the second, if not the first. He's either the first or the second. With the other one being Dr. J. So, they were around. They were in the same era, same time. Anyway, it's not about Dr. J or basketball. Michael Jack Schmidt was like the hero in Philadelphia in the 80s, right? 70s, 80s.
Yeah. And it's funny because you and I had talked about it, I think, off the air last week, that Mike Schmidt doesn't believe he was the greatest third baseman that ever lived. That he actually verbally said that the greatest third baseman that ever lived was a gentleman named Judy Johnson, who played for the Hilldale Ball Club, which was formed in Darby, Pennsylvania, which is where I lived for close to 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then they became the Philadelphia Stars in the Negro National League. But he said that he is the greatest third baseman that ever lived. And unfortunately, there are some records out there that are kind of incomplete, but historians would agree with him as well.
Yeah, you talked to a lot of historians, which I have. I'm actually, I've done some things with the Judy Johnson Foundation of Wilmington, Delaware. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, is actually a kin to Judy Johnson, and so we've gotten to talk a lot. I've been invited to a lot of forums and stuff like that. Actually, I was on a forum with the grandson of Josh Gibson.
Wow.
And he was talking about, Judy Johnson and the Negro Leagues and all like that. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we never got a chance to see him, and there's no video of Judy Johnson. But if one of the greatest all-time third basemen of today says that Judy Johnson was the greatest third baseman to ever live, to ever play, then that's saying something.
Yeah,
That's saying something. So hey,
absolutely.
write it in. Write it in. Write that one in if you want to.
Yes, sir.
Judy Johnson.
Judy Johnson. All right. Now we're going to the shortstops.
Now this should be fun because this is a glamour position.
This is a glamour
This is the
position.
this is the glamour position of baseball. The shortstop and the center fielder are the glamour positions.
And speaking of glamour, this guy still is living the glamorous life. I don't know if he can kiss enough mirrors of himself. Um, Now, this one to some people could be confusing because, as we all know, when he came over to the Yankees, he moved over to third base, and he played, pretty much played out the rest of his career as a third baseman. But prior to that, he was drafted by the Seattle Mariners um, as a shortstop and played with the Rangers as a shortstop. So he makes the list. Mr. Alex Aroyd Rodriguez. Best year 2001, 318.50, 2 home runs, 135 RBIs. What I'm surprised at is I'm seeing a lot of the lack of walks. So they're going up there hacking. You know what I mean? His defensive WAR was kind of low, but he was just under 700 home runs. And you see the offensive and defensive WAR there. So he's at the bottom of this list. I'm trying to take out the personality and, how he's kind of a diva and a drama queen and all that stuff.
And he probably would have reached. He definitely ain't no problem. He definitely would have eclipsed 700 home runs had it not been for the whole steroid debacle. I'm gonna call that that's what it was. It was a debacle for baseball.
Well, remember he had a really bad hip injury too towards the end. Like he could barely.
Right. But I want to say, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Even prior to the injury, they were not going to play him.
Yeah, he was suspended for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to someone else, I can't think of it. He had the longest suspension in professional sports.
I'll never forgive him for stepping his game up against the Phillies in the World Series. That's the year he decided to step it up for the Yankees. Was that year.
I guess that's the Jeter effect, So there you have Mr. Alex Rodriguez. And
so let me before you even move on, let me just say that he cannot be on the Mount Rushmore because I know I haven't seen your list, and I hope I'm not wrong. I know you have Derek Jeter on this list. And if he couldn't take Derek Jeter's spot, he cannot be he cannot have the shortstop spot in this. I'm just saying. If Derek Jeter ain't on here, then that's a different story. But if Derek Jeter's not on here, you can't have Alex Rodriguez eclipse Derek Jeter because he couldn't take Derek Jeter's spot.
Touche.
Is Derek Jeter next?
Number 3 would be let's play to Mr. Cub, Mr. Ernie Banks.
Ernie Banks.
So a little old school for most of our viewing public, but his best season was 1959. He was the first of the prototypical home run hitting shortstops. Prior to him, it was always the littlest guy batting, 8th or 9th, and didn't really hit for power. But he was one of the first shortstops to hit for power. 304 in 1959 with 45 home runs, 143 RBI, 64 walks, offensive defensive WAR, not bad. 500 home runs in his career, 1,600 RBIs, 2,500 hits. Didn't walk a lot, but high offensive WAR and okay defensive WAR. He did wind up playing first base towards the end of his career, the last 4 or 5 years of his career. But he is Mr. Cubby, Mr. Ernie Banks.
A lot of times they move your position because you can't play the position anymore, but you can still hit.
Correct.
So obviously he was able to still hit because they didn't take him out of lineup. He was either able to still hit or they were just showing him respect.
Combination of the two. because he could still hit, but at the end of the day, too, it's like when the Cubs weren't. The sad thing is, he never played in a World Series or a playoff game.
Because the
And he
Cubs
played in the
were
league for like 20 some odd years.
because the Cubs were
They were horrible. I think they had 1 year, 2 or 3 years where they finished above 500 during all that. So it was kind of like he was the showcase, if you will. So number two will confirm what you said for Mr. Rodriguez. We got ourselves Mr. Derek Jeter. Um, Best season was in 99, 349, 24 home runs, 102 RBIs, 91 walks. There's his offensive defense award, not terribly impressive. Even his numbers, career wise, 310 hitter, 260, 1,300 RBIs, a lot of hits, 3,400. Offensive and defensive war, surprisingly. Um, Derek Jeter doesn't, for me, because other than that one play where he dove into the third base side stands for the ball, I mean, he was clutch. You know what I mean? Like he had clutch hits, he had clutch moments, but he wasn't like this dominant like vacuum cleaner at second baseman if you at short. You know what I mean?
absolutely, and I feel like I know people gonna hate me for saying it. I feel like if Derek Jeter played for the Arizona Diamondbacks, he wouldn't be held in as high esteem as he is.
I agree with you. I think he handled the media perfectly. He was built for New York, so he managed to stay out of scandal or anything like that. Um, so I think from that standpoint, I think that's what makes him like he was steady, he was consistent,
Mm-hmm.
he showed up, and he was clutch. But spectacular, like, and it was hard because I wanted Ozzie Smith to be on this list, but obviously he had no bat whatsoever.
Right.
Although, he did hit a game-winning home run in a league championship series. So there's that one moment, but everybody remembers Ozzie Smith for the dazzling plays at short. You know, for those of you, he started out with the San Diego Padres. Look up, ball hits pebble and he grabs one-handed dive. Best play in the history of baseball ever caught on video. Um, but like those things, like you remember Ozzie Smith for that. But like again, that defensive play. I mean, there was that one play. I think the ball went away in a playoff game against Oakland, and he took the ball barehanded and backhanded to the catcher for the tag. There's stuff like that.
I remember that.
But other than that, it's always him hitting in the clutch, kind of sort of, but nothing spectacular per se. But maybe
And people make a big deal out of that play in Oakland, and
I thought he was safe, but
I thought it was safe too. And to this day, I still think it was safe. But they make a big deal out of that play against Oakland, and a lot of people don't realize he was supposed to be there.
yeah,
He like, oh my goodness, he knew the ball. No, he was supposed to be there. He was in position. He was doing he was doing the right thing.
right.
So it's like, and I'm sounding like a hater. Like he did. You could probably have a hard time finding video of Derek Jeter not doing the right thing, not making the right thing. You have a hard time finding that. So to not take away anything away from him, one of the smartest baseball players, one of the clutchest baseball players, um, one of the a baseball player that was the moment was never too big for him, ever. So
Agreed.
he gets his just due. He deserves it. But like I said, if he had played for like the Marlins, if he
Or,
played for
or the Cleveland Guardians.
or the Cleveland Guardians, or if he played for the Royals, I don't feel like he would get as much accolade as he does,
Yeah.
which makes you kind of think what players out there probably deserve the accolade that don't get them because they don't play in a big market city like New York.
Well, that leads to the number one that I chose. I'm gonna see if you can guess who number one is.
We're on two guessing games today, huh?
Yes, sir.
So one of my favorites was Barry Larkin.
Not on the list.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Tough choice
Um,
though. It was like, you know, but when I looked at the numbers compared to everybody else and the significance, historical significance, not that Barry Larkin was just another player, but he was special. But
you already said Ozzy's not on the list. Barry Larkin's not on the list. Jimmy Rollins probably is not on the list.
he popped up too much for me.
He did pop up a lot. He
Me and
did.
my me and my friends had a joke one time that his statue would be him looking up at the pop up to the shortstop.
He did a lot of popping up. I'm trying to think who could it be. You got me on this one,
All right, so this gentleman,
or at least tell me who he played for.
well, you'll get it if I tell you that. But I'll tell you from a historic, he broke a historical record that none of these gentlemen have.
Oh, oh, Cal Ripken.
There you go,
Cal Ripken.
Mr. Cal Ripken. So the Iron Horse Part Two. Again, Lou Gehrig played in 2,130 consecutive games. Cal Ripken broke that record and played in 2,632 consecutive games. Um, his best year was in 91, 323, 34 home runs, 114 RBIs. Didn't like to walk either. Hit over 400 home runs, 16, close to 1,700 RBIs, 3,100 hits, and there's his offensive and defensive WAR numbers. So, from a defensive standpoint, better than Jeter, and from an offensive standpoint, not as a high average, but definitely more power than Jeter. Um, and above everything else, he played every game for close to 20 years.
Wow, it's hard to argue against that because for the people just from the outside looking for the casual baseball fan, Jeter's the guy.
Right.
But Cal's got better numbers. And
And
had he played in New York and not Baltimore, we would be talking about Cal Ripken the way we talk about it because we already talk about Cal, how good Cal was. We already talk.
yeah,
It might be a lot different.
yeah, um, you know, because even like as I'm kind of discovering the area here, it's like Kyrikin is still the man. They still talk about him. They even bring up Brooks Robinson a lot.
Well, where you are, listen, and I'm sure you know this, and or you're getting to know this. They love their just like here. They love their stars down there
Yeah,
in Baltimore in that area. They love Cal Ripken, Brooks Robinson, Ray Lewis. You know what I mean? Wes Unseld. They, even though he was a Washington Bullet.
that's
Um,
unsettled.
um, 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 I'm brain farting now, but they love their stars down there, and they are not as rabid a fan base as we are, but they are loyal to their stars.
There.
And you can't say nothing bad about Kyle Ripken down there. Nobody, don't call me if you say something bad about Kyle Ripken. Tell you right now.
So what you got? You want Jeter? You want Aroyd? Well, I'm sorry, you disqualified A Rod because of
A
Jeter.
Rod can't be on there because he couldn't take Jeter's position.
Right.
So when he went to the Yankees, he got moved to third base because couldn't take Jeter's position. So
Well, was it because he couldn't take Jeter's position, or because
could he,
Jeter
could he
said,
have taken Jeter's position?
I just think it was a boss move. Like, I'm the shortstop and you're not, and that's how we do things here in Yankeedom.
And you're probably right. But if A-Rod was a better shortstop than Jeter, A-Rod would have been starting at shortstop. Like, why even go after A-Rod? You know what? Now I'm thinking about it. Why go after A-Rod? See, you know what? I'm picking Cal Ripken Jr. just so I don't have to go through all the crap.
You're
Going
picking
with
Cal
Cal
Ripken.
Ripken.
You're picking Cal Ripken Jr. because
Just because it's easier to pick Cal Ripken than to really try to figure out A-Rod and Jeter.
gotcha.
So I'm being lazy.
No, I mean it's legit though.
I'm being lazy, but I'm right. I'm being lazy, but I'm right. I'm correct.
Gotcha.
Best season was 1991, batted 323 with 34 home runs, 114 RBIs, only 53 walks on that season.
Yeah, it's funny because like when you see like Barry Bonds' numbers and he's averaging like 140 walks and stuff like that, I'm like these guys were hacking. Either that or you think about the pitchers too, because they weren't intentionally walking everybody like they did in the steroid era either.
Right. Right.
So. But I was surprised at that. Like the majority of these best years, they didn't walk much.
No, they didn't. They didn't. They probably were more aggressive at the plate.
Yeah.
They didn't. How can I say this? Analytics were not as much of a dominant factor in sports as it is today.
Yeah.
Um, and plus, he played every day.
Every
He
day.
played every day, no days off. So he saw a lot of pitches, and he knew what to. The more pitches you see as a baseball player, for those that may not play baseball, the more you see, the better off you will be. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the game slows down. I can remember one of my first college game. Oh my God, everything was moving so fast, so fast. I was like, "There's no way I'm going to be able to play baseball at this level." So fast, everything was moving. But after I got more playing time, things slowed down, and the ball never got hit to me again after I made those two errors. So, but and then I made most of my starts behind the plate at that point after that anyway. But um, yeah, give me I mean, excuse me, give me Ripken.
Okay.
Give me Ripken in this. Um, and what I said, Michael Jack Schmidt and the other one, right?
Yeah.
The people want the
The
people
people want
uh,
Albert Pujols
the
at
people
first
want
base,
Albert Pujols.
and they want Joe Morgan at second.
So I would think, and we're gonna put it out there for the people to decide. If you got Mike Schmidt, Cal Ripken, Joe Morgan, and Albert Pujols, I would probably have to go with Cal Ripken for the Mount Rushmore spot. I think I had to go with Cal Ripken because I believe that Cal Ripken is more iconic than any of those other three players. Than Mike Schmidt, than Albert Pujols, than Joe Morgan. Um, Cal Ripken played and did things at a time when, well, for me, baseball was still a magical sport. It was in the '90s. It was like a magical thing. It was probably the last magical decade of baseball, where he broke Lou Gehrig's record. Right? We'll probably never see that happen. Cal Ripken's record will probably never be broken. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't he hit a home run that night too?
Yep. He had a home run,
He hit a home run that night. You don't see that too often.
and
I
I
mean,
believe
that's the type of stuff that you see in movies.
and I believe that he caught the out when the game was made. It was like 4.5 innings. I believe he caught the out to make the game official.
And if I'm not mistaken, he hit a home run in his last at bat before retirement.
In the All-Star game, he did that because
In
Chan
the
Ho Park
All-Star
gave
game. Okay.
Chan Ho Park gave him a big fat fastball and winked at him on the way. And he's
Served him
running
up.
second base.
You served him up. But those are the type of things that make the game of baseball magical for the youth. Things like that. Those are things the stories are made out of. Those are things that you talk about later on. We don't really see that now. Brett Favre serving up a home run. Excuse me, home run. Brett Favre serving up a sack to Michael Strahan so he could break that record.
Yeah, that was kind of cheesy.
It was. It was, especially because he was a giant. But but yeah, I would have to give the spot to Cal Ripken. And I think Cal Ripken is just more iconic. Kind of like that argument I gave for Jackie Robinson, where what Jackie Robinson did for the game kind of boosts him up on that status. Cal
So
Ripken breaking the record, having the. Are you hearing that noise again?
yeah,
Okay, did it just stop?
yeah.
Yeah. Cal Ripken breaking that record. It boosts him up because he has a record. He has a damn near unbreakable record. Like, are
Yeah,
we really going to see? What are the chances that we see that again?
you're not going to see that because of
Analytics,
you know
analytics, contracts, rest.
contracts, but also even the way that we're training our players in high school right now. To not overwork, to make sure you get your proper sleep, all that stuff. Players are built different, back in that day, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always show the
Mm-hmm.
picture of Dick Allen over my shoulder smoking a cigarette in the dugout. That's what you did in the 70s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, which I think is not a bad thing because at the end of the day, like it is prolonging their life and their health and stuff like that. But there's always something special about a player that can get up every single day and be consistent, and not complain, and do it again and again and again.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something to be said about that. But here's the thing, though. I'm really battling between this Jackie Robinson and Joe Morgan because now, if you put Jackie Robinson versus Cal Ripken, and you're talking about historical significance,
then I gotta put Jackie up there.
you gotta put Jackie up there.
Gotta
And
put
not for
Jackie
nothing.
up.
I mean, we got Barry pretty much by unanimous decision between you and I and the people. I think people may have leaned a little. I thought there was going to be more votes for Henry Aaron, just right off the bat, but there wasn't. Historical significance, greatest home run, most home runs ever. You know what I mean? Steroid era or not, whatever, most home runs ever. Most
Wow.
games played consistently over the point of 20 years, never taking a day off, or breaking a barrier that was. I mean, can you imagine us trying to go today to a baseball field and being told we can't play because of our color, because of our nationality, and having a whole system designed to exclude us to the point where we have to create our own league of people of like color.
You make a very good point.
That's the battle. That's the toss up there.
You make a very good point. Quick story for you. I may have told you before, but I've never said it on this show. You've seen the original Jackie Robinson movie where he plays himself, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You remember when he first got to the Dodgers? It was spring training. They were down in Daytona Beach, and they would not let him play on the field. It was like his first. It was against like the Expos or something, and they would not allow him onto the field. Because he was a black man.
Correct.
Do you remember that?
I vaguely remember the original movie, but I remember it in 42.
So I had the opportunity to play on that field
Really?
in college. Yeah, it's actually called Jackie Robinson Stadium now,
Wow.
but it was the field in which he was first denied access to play as a major leaguer. Um, and it was an honor, man. It was an honor to know that I'm playing on this field in the same position that he would have played in if he were allowed to be. I would have been standing in the same spot. But because of what he did, I was able to go to that field and play. And not only that, but an HBCU uses that field as their home field now.
Wow.
Bethune-Cookman College uses that field as their home field. So, quick story. So I guess after saying all that, I gotta go with Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, and I think I'm hoping that the votes go that way in the survey, but um, uh,
I guess in the survey we just gotta say who goes on your who gets the spot on the Mount Rushmore. Mike Schmidt, Cal Ripken, Joe Morgan, Jackie Robinson, Albert Pujols.
do you want to have Joe Morgan and
Yep. Let's
okay,
put them both on there.
okay,
See what happens. Put
got
them
it.
both on there and see what happens. This is interesting. This is good, man. This is interesting. This is interesting stuff
Yeah, man.
because so many people had an impact on the game and how we view the game and how the game is played to this point. And it's just, whew, it's tough, man. It's tough. Like I didn't think it was going to be this tough. I
Well, I
really
think
did.
because I think the biggest challenge is because, like again, with the outfielders, anybody, any outfielder can play any outfield position just about. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's kind of like the pick a litter, but infield, it's like third base is distinctly different from shortstop. Is distinctly different from third. Like they have their own specific roles.
Mhm.
And I had, at the end of the day, I think I felt like a middle infielder would be picked because of the challenges of moving left to right defensively and also being speedy on the base pass and also being a good hitter, which you don't usually get from middle infielders.
Mhm.
So all right, that is going to be the final vote for the middle infielders. Lou Gehrig, Jackie Robinson, Joe Morgan, Michael Jack Schmidt, and Cal Ripken Jr. to represent the
So
infield.
when you see that survey, go ahead, vote. Let us know what you think. Put Jackie Robinson on that Mount Rushmore or whoever you want. But
Right.
I think it's going to come down to Cal Ripken and Jackie Robinson, personally. My personal feeling. Even though Albert Pujols was overwhelmingly the favorite at first base.
Yeah, I think because he's my favorite first baseman of all time, personally. Um, but again, when I look at what Lou Gehrig did, the consistency, and I know there's an argument that Kyle Ripken's game streak is more challenging or more uh, of a accomplishment than Lou Gehrig because they say all he did was play first base, and all you got to do is move over a couple steps and catch the ball. But when they're coming in with spikes that they used to sharpen, it could make for a really nasty couple days
It could.
getting spiked in their shins,
It
as we've
could.
all experienced. So
Listen, it's not easy to go out and play every day in the summer sun with long pants on and stuff like that.
in have you ever played? I played police athletically from like '92 to like '94, Have you ever played in the fields at Fairmount Park,
No, but I've heard about
Belmont
them.
Plateau?
I've heard about them.
They water the dirt once for the entire year. I still
They're
have.
like sliding on rocks.
You see this right there? That I slid at home plate, and this was all white meat,
Mm.
all of this. So I had this ace bandage and like this dressing and this elbow pad. They're like, "Oh man, he looks so cool." I'm like, "Dude, I lost like 3 pounds of meat here."
Were you
Belmont
safe?
Plateau,
Were you safe?
huh?
Were you safe?
Hell yeah, it was safe. We ran up the score too. We beat a Fox Chase like 31-3.
Hey,
I was
so that's
pissed.
why we was getting that payback. Never mind. I'm not even gonna go there.
There you go. All right, time to guess your player of the week. Four-time
Four-time
All-Star.
All-Stars, four-time Silver Slugger, five-time Gold Glove, two-time Platinum Glove. I never heard of Platinum Glove.
You never heard of Platinum Glove? I'm glad you brought that up, sir. Platinum Glove came out in 2011. I think it was a way to award absolutely stellar play that was above gold. Go figure. Now they have levels to the gloves, but yeah, he won the first two Platinum Gloves, and when they came out in 2011 and 2012. So he played for the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Seattle Mariners, the Boston Red Sox, and the Rangers of Texas.
Ooh, the Dodgers, the Mariners, the Red Sox, the Rangers, and who else?
Boston Red Sox.
Dodgers, the Mariners, the Red Sox, the Rangers. Did he
That's it.
play for a team twice?
No.
Number 29. Dodgers, Mariners, Red Sox, Rangers. There's got to be one more. I'm missing somebody. You got five more
No,
to
no, no,
go.
no, no. All right, I'm sorry. So the 5 and the 29, those are the two numbers he had for the Mariners. So he had two numbers with the same team.
And he
He went
played.
there. He
He
took the
played
number
after
five. Was like, nah,
2011
bro,
because the
I'm too young.
Platinum Glove came out in 2011. So he played after 2011. It's not Nomar, is it?
I'll give you another, huh?
Is it Nomar?
No, he was a Cub
Nomar was a Cub. He was a Dodger.
and a Red
I'm
Sox.
sorry. He was a Red. Was he a Dodger? He was a Red Sox.
So the year the Boston Red Sox won the first World Series, he was traded to the Cubs.
Okay. He was never a Mariner though. So
No, so it's not Nomar.
a Dodger, a Cub, a Mariner, and a Red Sox. What position did he play?
One of the positions we're talking about tonight.
Dodger, Cub,
All right. He played third base.
Dodger, a Cub.
I'll give you one more hint. He just retired. Well, he retired in 2018, or it might have been 2019. He recently
Scott
retired.
Rowland didn't play for all those teams.
No.
I'm gonna be so mad. I
You
got a
are.
feeling I'm gonna be so mad when you
You
tell me
are.
because I have no idea.
You are.
A Dodger, a Cub, a Red Sox, and a Mariner, and he played third base. God, I can't think of any Dodgers third baseman.
And here's the thing. I had a hard time putting him on the list because he actually is rated as the most valuable player next to, I believe, Jeter. But he gives the That WAR stat ranks him as offensive and defensively the most valuable player to any team.
Red Sox, Cubs, Mariners.
All right, you ready?
For another clip, for another hint.
I can't think of any other hint. If I give you this one hint, you're gonna get it, but I can't give it to you.
I'm so mad I can't get this one.
You're gonna punch yourself on national television.
He played for the Cubs, right?
No, you're still thinking of Nomar. Forget Nomar Garcia Parra. He
What
never
you said he played for the Cubs? You said
no. You asked me if Nomar played for the Cubs.
oh,
This guy didn't. He played for the
Red
Dodgers,
Sox, Mariners, Dodgers,
Started off
and
with
Rangers.
the Dodgers, retired with the Rangers.
Josh Hamilton.
No, he was a outfielder.
I thought he was a third baseman.
No, he was left-handed and he hit left-handed. He was an outfielder.
Josh Hamilton?
He was a center fielder for the Rangers.
Damn. He plays third base for my Diamond Dynasty team, just so you know.
You got a left-handed third baseman playing?
No, he's batting right-handed, so that's maybe it's somebody else. Josh
You're thinking something else. All right.
You got me on this one.
Oh man, you're gonna hate yourself. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Mr. Adrian Beltre. One of the most enjoyable players to watch because he has so much fun and he's a goofball.
You know what's crazy? I would have never guessed it, though. I can't be mad because I would not have guessed it.
Why not?
Because I'm not big on American League teams, and I would have remembered him with the
Dodgers,
with the Rangers.
Right, I got you.
But I don't see much Rangers games, so I wasn't connecting third base with it.
So that means you have to get the MLB package, and we have to upgrade and watch more games next season.
If I do that, I'm buying cases of beer every week.
Well, that's what I'm doing. Since I can't, MLB TV was useless to me when I was in Philly because the games would always be blacked out. Now I can use it. You know.
True to that. Well, I can't be mad because I don't think I would have gotten it. To be honest with you, I don't think I would have. But
we got time for the big dummy.
Oh, we were actually running out of time. We're going to have to save it for next week.
Let's save it for next week. Fantastic.
Save it for next week because we only got about a minute left in the show.
Not a problem.
So, it was a good one too. It was a good one too. And you know what? I didn't even set up for it, so we got to save it for next week anyway.
That's all good. That's all good.
Got to save it for next week. But look, appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all vote on the survey. Add your comments if you want to write somebody in. But put something together. I didn't freeze. I know you looked up like it was what happened. No, put something together for us. We're putting this Mount Rushmore together for you. We want to see what you think. The playoffs have started. I hope you guys are enjoying the playoffs, the MLB playoffs, and our Mount Rushmore will be revealed around the time of the World Series. All right. So keep the votes coming. Keep them going. Make sure you spread the word about the Check Swing Podcast. Make sure you follow the New Tools Radio YouTube channel at youtube.com/New Tools Radio. And, of course, you can shoot me any comments that you want at 215-486-0335. Now, for Miguel and myself, we appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. We will check y'all next time here on the Check Swing Podcast. Peace.